Since its inception in 2005, the Ryuga Gotoku franchise has been a cornerstone of Sega's success in Japan. Adapting into various spin-offs, books, and films, the Yakuza franchise has sold nearly 20 million units as of 2023. And while it's become a Japanese cultural phenomenon, the Yakuza series struggled to find success in the Western market until Yakuza 0's release in 2015. How exactly did the Yakuza franchise become a success overseas? Join the Kamurocho Bros as we take a deep dive into the history of the Yakuza franchise in the West. After the Western release of Yakuza Dead Souls in March 2012, many fans were left with a somewhat bitter taste in their mouths. While the game was finally localized and released in Western markets, it was also criticized for its clunky controls, bad performance, and the switch in genre for the series. In addition, the game was negatively received by review outlets and was considered a failure both critically and financially, leaving fans to question the future of the series in the West.
Yeah, a lot of people look at this game as like a joke for better or worse, not specifically in a bad way. You know, it's a very unserious game that, well, you know, it throws the protagonists in a very unserious situation of, like, dealing with zombies. But having said that, it's not like the story is all, you know, just laughs and comedy. You know, like, there is a story. It's just, you know, it's that one zombie game with horrible performance that not many people care about, but I think a lot of people do want to see this game come to current platforms and have a functional port that actually runs well. And yeah, I still hope, I'm holding out hope that we are going to get that one day. So fingers crossed.
Meanwhile in Japan, the Ryuga Gotoku series was continuing strong. On August 31st, 2011, Toshihiro Nagoshi held a press conference in Japan announcing the formation of Ryuga Gotoku Studios. Under Sega's umbrella, this new studio would spearhead development of future titles in the RPG series. At the press conference, Nagoshi then revealed to have two new projects in the works, a sequel to the Ryuga Gotoku PlayStation portable game Kororyu and Ryuga Gotoku 5. On March 22, 2012, just over a week after Yakuza Dead Souls Western release, Kororyu 2 Ryuga Gotoku Ashorahin was released for the PlayStation Portable in Japan. With no mention from Sega of America about a possible Western release of either PSP game or Ryuga Gotoku 5, overseas fans were to wait and see if the franchise would ever be localized again. On May 25, 2012, bad news struck the Yakuza community as senior producer Yas Noguchi left Sega of America. In a post to Sega's forums, Yas said his goodbye to the community. Yas was a huge proponent in getting Yakuza 4 and Dead Souls localized in the West, as he led up the translation team for both of those titles. He was also always on Sega's forums communicating with the fans of the series. As such, Yas's departure was a big morale hit for the community itself.
Whenever people interacted with Yas, I think it was just a generally very positive experience. He would tell us about the state of, you know, the localization and the things they were trying to, I guess, keep in the game, trying to reassure us that they were, you know, doing their best to bring us the full experience, basically.
At the time, it kind of just felt like, well, that's it. Like, no one's going to bat for this series. If I recall, there was a lot of other upheavals at Sega at the time. I don't remember the exact details, but it just felt like that was kind of the nail in the coffin for the series, because he felt like the only guy that was going to bat to get these games out here. And then after he left, I remember at the time posting about his leaving on my website, and then for whatever reason, a lot of other websites thought he died. And so everyone sourced me saying, oh, Yas Noguchi from Sega's Yakuza team dies. And I had to go around and contact a bunch of major outlets, be like, no, guys, he didn't die, he just left. It's all good.
Soon after Ashorahin's release, another RGG Studio project was announced. On July 17, 2012, Ryuga Gotoku 1-2 HD Edition was officially confirmed to release in Japan for the PlayStation 3 and Wii U for some odd reason, with a release of November 1st, 2012. Finally, on December 5th, 2012, Ryuga Gotoku 5 was released for the PlayStation 3 in Japan. Supporting a brand new engine, this title had double the development time of previous games in the series, and was dubbed as a sort of reboot for the series by the developers. The game was a critical and commercial success, as it sold 590,000 copies in Japan by April 2013. It also received critical acclaim as well, as Famitsu gave it a perfect 40 out of 40 score in their magazine. While the franchise was riding high in Japan, the West was a completely different story. Following the release of Yakuza Dead Souls, there was little discussed about the future of the series in Western markets. Fans were clamoring for the release of Yakuza 5 in the West. Some posted videos on YouTube requesting it to be localized, and even change petitions with thousands of supporters were created in the hopes of bringing the title overseas. The most notable campaign was a Facebook campaign started by Deacon Ross, the founder of Yakuza Fan. Yakuza Fan was created in 2012 and has been a reliable source of information about Ryuga Gotoku and other Sega franchises. In fact, a lot of the information for this series of videos is from that website.
Yeah, hey there, I'm Deacon. I run YakuzaFan.com. I've been around since I think about 2012. I started kind of back in the day when there was really no Yakuza fan sites. No one in the West was really talking about Yakuza as a series, and I was just like, hey, I want to get this brand out there, talk about it with people who kind of enjoy it themselves. So I started a Tumblr, and that's kind of where I dipped my toes into it, and then eventually it just got so big that I was like, well, you know what, maybe I'll just make this into its own website. I don't need to rely on Tumblr servers. And, you know, I update it when I can. I'm kind of a one-man show over here, but, you know, it's something that I like to keep on top of, and I'm just such a big fan of the series that, you know, it's kind of the way that I express my love for this series in the community. There wasn't really a centralized place for news about the series, except for the Japanese website, and that was barely ever translated. I know, I think it's Gemetsu does a lot of translations now, and now that the series is so big in the West, almost every article that comes out is translated. But back then, there was just no one covering these really niche things that they were doing. You know, they would get, you know, developer interviews, they would get staff interviews. Nagoshi had his weekly talk show where he would sit down with different people and just discuss what they're doing in the series. And no one was covering this stuff. And it's like, well, of course this isn't taking off in the West. No one cares to look into these details. And that was just something that I was, you know, passionate about, and started my site and just started kind of cataloging and archiving all these little things that no one was really willing to cover.
The Facebook campaign started by Deacon received thousands of likes and shares, and it was so popular that it received the attention of media outlets and Sega themselves.
I remember Sega were doing something for their Hatsune Miku series of games, and they pulled off the same kind of thing of, they were definitely going to release Hatsune Miku in the West, but they started off trying to make a viral thing of, like this post if you want to see Hatsune Miku in the West. And it gained some traction, and so I saw that post and went, well, why don't I just do the same kind of thing, and just made a public post. The banner image that I actually created for the campaign is almost directly copying or parodying their Hatsune Miku one. And it started gaining more traction than the Miku one, especially after it got passed to Twitter and Facebook, and I'm sure there was some other sites at the time. But most of it was based off of Sega's own marketing. You know, if they were willing to get their fans involved. Again, at the time, I don't know whether there was ever any worry about that game coming out. It just seemed to be kind of trying to force fans to share something to their own walls. And so I was like, well, why can't I just do the same thing? And that's kind of what I did.
Unfortunately for fans, more bad news would be on the horizon for the franchise. On August 18, 2013, a brand new spin-off for the Ryuga Gotoku franchise was announced. Entitled Ryuga Gotoku Ishin, this spin-off would star series protagonist Kazuma Kiryu as Sakamoto Ryoma, a legendary Japanese samurai during the Edo period. This game would be the first RGG game to be announced for the PlayStation 4. Ryuga Gotoku Ishin was released in Japan for the PlayStation 3 and PlayStation 4 on February 22, 2014. The game sold over 220,000 copies within its first 2 days of release and was also critically acclaimed by Famitsu. Just a month later, more info was shared on the future of the Yakuza series in the West. During an interview with Edge Online in September 2013, Nagoshi was asked if there were plans to localize Yakuza 5 in the future. Nagoshi was quoted as saying, "We don't have a plan for that at the moment. The Yakuza studio team is a fixed size, and we have to choose between forging ahead with the next game or localizing the one that just came out. This time, the size of the game was so large, so rather than localizing the game, we chose to focus our manpower on the new game. But we got asked about it a lot. We got lots of complaints." With this interview came a slew of backlash for the online Yakuza community. It basically spelled the end of the franchise outside of Japan. No information about the series in the West or its various spin-offs were released afterwards.
That's probably one of the main reasons a lot of us back then felt complete despair. Like, the franchise was done for. That's it. It's so over.
Morale was at an all-time low in the Western Yakuza fanbase. No matter the efforts of fan campaigns or word of mouth, Sega seemed determined to let the Yakuza series end with Yakuza Dead Souls' failure. It seemed over for the fandom, that is until a fateful day in February 2014 when the rumor mill started talking. On February 2nd, 2014, a lot of hope struck the Yakuza community as Electronic Gaming Monthly magazine published an article concerning Yakuza 5's future in the West. In the article, one EGM source claimed that Sega's newly acquired Atlus could possibly be localizing Yakuza 5 for the Western market. This was basically the first time that rumors were starting to go around about the title, as this started a chain reaction on Sega's online forum. Fans gained more hope that this release would eventually happen. Unfortunately, nothing more of the rumor was talked about for months. To add insult to injury, the next entry in the mainline Ryuga Gotoku series was announced on August 24, 2014. Entitled Ryuga Gotoku Zero Chiaki no Basho, this title would be a prequel to the franchise and take place in 1980s Japan. Obviously, no word of this or other titles coming to the West was mentioned by Sega. A few months went on without any rumors or official statement from Sega themselves. Then on December 6, 2014, a complete miracle happened.
I'm happy to say we're bringing one of the most requested titles on the Building the List campaign to PlayStation 3, Yakuza 5.
Sony officially announced during its PlayStation Experience event that they were partnering with Sega to release Yakuza 5 digitally on the PlayStation 3 during summer 2015 in the West. This was a part of PlayStation's Building the List campaign, a Twitter campaign that had fans make their voices heard on what games they wanted to see come to PlayStation. According to Sony, Yakuza 5 was one of the most requested games during the campaign.
But they were announcing new games, and out of nowhere, Gio Corsi, the absolute mad lad, comes on stage. He's like, we're doing something called hashtag Building the List, where people are asking for obscure games to be, brought over to the West, or something along those lines. I forget how it exactly went, but yeah, that's when he was like, "Hey guys, Yakuza 5," and then Yakuza 5 shows up on the big screen, and oh boy, still can't believe that happened.
I was actually taking my other kids out to like a hockey game or something. I don't remember exactly what, but so I missed the live event, and I was sitting in my car listening to it live streamed. So all I had was the audio, and when Gio Corsi came on stage and announced it, I kind of like pulled over and had a moment of like, oh my god, it's happening! I can't believe this. I think I remember at the time there were several interviews saying that when Gio Corsi did his Building the List campaign, and he mentioned that if you take off things that are definitely not going to happen, like, we're not bringing Halo to PlayStation, we're not bringing Banjo-Kazooie to PlayStation. If you get rid of all that crap, Yakuza 5 was like near the top, if not the top of the list of things that people want, that are realistically, we can do this.
The crazy thing is, it got to levels where I'm pretty sure fans were sending letters to Sega. Like, when was the last time you heard about fans sending letters to like a company, like handwritten letters? That's insane, right? They were sending letters to Sega about, just, expressing their love for Yakuza and getting them to, or trying to convince them to actually localize the games.
In a blog post on Sega's website, Toshihiro Nagoshi made a comment on Yakuza 5's Western announcement. After receiving so many requests from fans of the series, we have decided to bring Yakuza 5 to the US and Europe. This title was enjoyed by over 1 million gamers in Japan. I'm looking forward to seeing how Yakuza 5 will be received by gamers in the US and Europe. Yakuza 5's surprise announcement was the light of hope that the franchise needed, and within the next year, things got even better for the fanbase. While Yakuza 5's release was delayed from its original summer 2015 date, its new release date came along with another surprise on December 5th, 2015 at PlayStation Experience 2015. Along with the new release date of December 8th, 2015, Sega also announced that Yakuza 0 would be receiving a physical and digital Western release. Yakuza 5 was released worldwide on December 8th, 2015 on the PlayStation 3 as a digital-only title, 1,098 days after its Japanese launch. All DLC from the Japanese version of the game was included at no additional cost. The game was put up for pre-order at a 15% discount to PlayStation Network, and those who pre-ordered received an exclusive static theme for their PlayStation 3 XMB menu. Regarding removed content for the localization, Yakuza 5 was complete in package with all sub-stories and mini-games intact. Some licensed songs, including the main theme for the game, were replaced, but otherwise, Yakuza 5's worldwide release was feature complete.
I thought the localization of Yakuza 5 was more than... I mean, it wasn't just adequate, it was pretty good. I think coming off of not Yakuza 4, but Yakuza 3, I remember people talking about how the localization for that was not good at all, like a lot of awkward phrases that didn't really make sense. And I think 4 drastically improved upon that, and then 5, I think, only got better and better.
I wasn't happy about the digital-only release, and I think it was even worse that people who have been collecting physical media, like I've got them all on disc back there, and then now that I'm missing one in my collection, I think that missing one physical was the exact moment where I just stopped collecting every single one religiously on physical and digital. It was just one of those things that it's hard to get over that 5 never really got that proper PS3 physical.
While Sony aided Sega in getting Yakuza 5's localization out of the door, there were some big changes going on within Sega's localization departments towards its release. This involved the moving of their localization operations and a few key hires that would shape the future of the franchise and its localization in the West. Soon after the worldwide release of Yakuza 5, Yakuza 0's pre-production was already underway. With this new entry into the series came a brand new localization team. Localization operations for Sega moved from San Francisco to Irvine, California. For titles before Yakuza 0, Sega would receive help from Inbound Games, as Sega of America did not have an internal localization team. Inbound Games would help yet again with Yakuza 0 with translation. However, the localization would receive additional polish under a new team led by Sam Mullen and Scott Strickart. Together, these two changed the way that the Yakuza franchise was localized, as Sega stopped using Inbound Games after the release of Yakuza 0, and localization efforts were brought internal to Atlas USA. According to Scott Strickart, this new process for Atlas USA was a completely fresh outlook on how the Yakuza series was localized. In an interview with Michibiku, Scott outlined some of the changes that the new localization brought. So we asked Inbound to also work on Yakuza 0. And what they did is provide the entire translation, which in truth could have been thrown directly into the game because they're that good. We went through and did a second pass on everything, taking it to that next level of localization. Where Sega had not previously done all the kinds of bells and whistles type stuffs on the title cards, the chapter titles, the honorifics, all that stuff was our decision to take in the new direction for Yakuza, especially considering we were going back into the beginning, and this was kind of our opportunity to reboot the localization for the franchise.
The duo, Scott and Sam, were working on Yakuza 5, and they were a gift to the franchise because they've done such an amazing job in, bringing the franchise outside of Japan.
I think what those guys did for the Yakuza series just set it up for so much success that we're still paying off even now. I think that with the way they promoted it on social media, and especially Sam just reaching out to every single content creator he could think of, for the longest time, he would be the guy to go to get review copies of things, and he would... Any small YouTuber, hey, you want a copy of Yakuza 0? Sure, here you go. It was like Halloween, just handing out candy to everyone who would ask.
Legends. Absolute legends. That's all I have to say. I just really want to say thank you for everything that you've done for the Yakuza franchise, Scott and Sam. And I don't know what more to say, to be honest, because you've given us a lot of amazing localization goodness with the releases of Yakuza 5, 0, and everything that came after that you guys worked on. So thank you for everything, and I sincerely hope that you continue to work on amazing games.
One example of changes to localization that came with Yakuza 0 was the approach to Japanese honorifics. With earlier releases in the series, honorifics were translated to keep in line with the relationships of characters. For example, in Yakuza 5, when Kiryu was working at a taxi company under the alias of Taichi Suzuki, his co-workers would use the honorifics of San as a title of respect for his name, literally as Suzuki-san in Japanese. For the English localization, the San honorific was translated to reflect Mr. or Mrs. in English, making references to Kiryu's alias as Mr. Suzuki. As another example, Majima's iconic Kiryu-chan was changed to Kazi in earlier entries for the series based on Majima's familiarities with Kiryu. For Yakuza 0 and onward in the series, these honorifics were kept in the script and translated literally and were not localized as suffixes or other ways to identify characters. So Suzuki-san would no longer be Mr. Suzuki. It would be literally in the script as Suzuki-san, the same as Majima's Kiryu-chan, like being translated literally instead of the name Kazi. When talking about sticking with Japanese honorifics in the script, producer Sam Mullen had this to say. Japanese localization and familiarity with the Japanese language in general has changed massively over the past decade. With easy access to Japanese content through services like Crunchyroll and dual language titles, there's been an increase in awareness with some of the subtleties in the Japanese language. In games like Yakuza that are so steeped in Japanese culture, the relationships between characters are critically important to understanding the context behind characters' actions and motivations. Honorifics are crucial linguistic components that express this, and more often than not, there are no natural English equivalents. There is so much more context immediately delivered when the character adds kun to another character's name. We believe that context is important and it should be carried over into the subtitles, even if it initially seems strange. When asked about their core approach to localizing the franchise, Scott Stricker was quoted as saying, "We approach the localization of Yakuza in a way that strives to find the perfect balance between authenticity and clarity. After the translators give us the direct meaning of every line, me and a team of editors actually earball every line, crafting the final English line as close as possible to the Japanese in terms of style and length while ensuring that it still reads like something you'd actually say in English." Yakuza 0 was released for the PlayStation 3 and PlayStation 4 in Japan on March 15, 2015, and worldwide for the PlayStation 4 on January 24, 2017. Production of the localization of the title lasted for about 1.5 years. Pre-orders of the physical game in the US came with a special business launch edition version of the game. This included the game, a stainless steel business card holder with Kiryu and Majima's tattoo designs on it, and business cards. The digital pre-order of the game came with a static PS4 theme as well. Following the release of Yakuza 0 in the West, the series started to see a resurgence in popularity. Acting as a prequel to the first game, it was easier now than ever to get into the franchise. However, this wasn't the only thing that made Yakuza 0 the success it is today.
I really wanted to have a sequential experience of Yakuza, so my community recommended playing 0 first, and I absolutely do not regret it. I think that was probably the best decision I made. I was completely blind. In retrospect, I didn't realize that the Baka Mitai's memes I was seeing beforehand were in Yakuza. I had seen them here and there, but I didn't know where they came from until I played it. So I had just seen the memes, but truly before I played, I knew nothing. I didn't know what kind of games they were other than action RPG, but I had nothing to really go on. My community just recommended it to me after I had played Persona 3, 4, 5 as my next series to go into. They were like, play Yakuza, and I was like, okay, I guess this is where I go after playing Persona. I just play Yakuza.
So originally, it was due to the general availability of 0 compared to some of the other games, because I've actually grown up with the PS2 era, so ideally I would have wanted to start with Yakuza 1 and 2. But seeing as I am predominantly focused on physical media, and we haven't really had any physical reprints of 1 and 2 in quite a while, Sega in the meantime started pushing a lot of the games on Steam, and that was when I saw 0 and K1. So really between the two of them, because I did follow most of the community discourse on the games and the lore since 2008 or something, I knew that 0 was the way to go, and then the rest is history, essentially.
Whenever I played Yakuza 0, the thing that is with that game and all of the games in the franchise is I just love the dichotomy of you have this serious crime drama, but you also have this insanely funny sub-story bullshit. They can be silly, they could be emotional, they could take things so seriously. Every aspect you get in this game, and it doesn't feel forced, it doesn't feel pushed. It's just these guys are just silly, and here's some nice mix-up to this serious crime drama.
A big part of 0's appeal was the multi-style combat system. My I feel like it's pretty obvious for anyone that watches my content, but I'm a huge fan of character action. So anything that might have taken inspiration from that genre, or shows potential for creative combo exhibition, is already bound to pique my interest. So the moment I saw, okay, 2 playable characters, 3 styles each, and then a 4th one, yeah, this is right up my alley.
That video of Nugget, the chicken, when that video hit and it got picked up on social media, especially Twitter, and that started making the rounds, like, Sega always joked that a chicken saved the Yakuza series, and honestly, it's kind of true. They, like, that one video did more for this series, like, in the West, and putting it in the minds of people of, like, oh, this is what a Yakuza game is like. It's fucking weird. And it's funny, and it's not like this serious crime drama that it's always been advertised as in the past. Like, every single game is advertised as a serious crime drama, and then you see Kiryu bowling a turkey and winning a chicken. It's like, what the hell is this?
Chapter 6 forest scene. Like, there is still nothing that has topped, like, and I started with Yakuza 0 and I played through all of them, and there is still nothing that beat that forest scene with Nishiki and Kiryu. Nothing that hits that level of, like, peak emotion with the most incredible, like, truly heart-wrenching voice acting.
I think this game has a very important legacy for the franchise and for Sega as well. Like, again, this game is what revived Yakuza outside of Japan. Like, in Japan, it was already doing well. And for Sega, I think this also kind of gave them the information of, oh, wow, Yakuza is actually doing well outside, so maybe we should focus on it going forward. And they did do that to the point where now we have, you know, like the Western RGG Studio account, and I think just straight up on Sega's account on social media, they say, like, you know, the name of Yakuza in the bio, so they definitely consider it to be one of the main or the biggest hitters now. So yeah, I think it definitely left its mark with people, you know, meme culture, like Damidane, Bakemitai, whatever. And then you also have with Sega, where like it's one of their main games now.
Following the success of Yakuza 0 in the West, it was time for Sega to capitalize off of the momentum that the series was gaining. With that, it was time for them to go back to the past and right some wrongs for the first entry of the series. With a brand new localization team led by Scott Stricker and Sam Mullen, Yakuza was destined to take a turn in popularity over the next few years. Hey, thanks so much for watching this video. It took a lot of time and research to gather the information that I needed to give you this content. If you enjoyed the video, give it a like and subscribe to us at Kamurocho Bros. Also, let us know below if you would like to see more of this series as we cover the history of Yakuza in the West. We have more RGG Studios content on the way, and we hope you'll join us for the ride. Thank you again and have a wonderful day. I want you to say something positive about Yakuza 5.
The diverse roster of characters. That's my answer.